Welcome, everybody. Hola, bienvenue, willkommen, and zdravствуйте. For even our Russian folks out there, that's how international the Matt Mettler podcast broadcast is. We include everybody, man. And what's up, party people? Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. Welcome to the second episode of the show. You guys are giving me the fuel, man. And I want to thank all of you for that. Just the mere fact that the show has been listened to and that there's human beings out there in the world that need to hear the next episode, I'm here recording this bad boy for you. I got some show notes. We're going to have a great show today. So, little workspace update. I'm getting a space. I got a place located that I want to put the podcasting studio, and I'm working on getting that taken care of. I've got some insurance for it, and that is underway. I'm making that happen, man. So I'm very excited about that. That's happening here in just the next couple of days. It was interesting, man. I had to fill out an insurance form for the insurer to tell them about what the podcast was or what I thought it would be. And that was kind of an interesting mental exercise, right? I had not actually done that before. In the past, my podcast was just sort of, it was a crazy mishmash of things. We did not have the sort of microscopic look at everything back then on the internet, man. We were just winging it. We were saying crazy stuff and playing music and all kinds of things that I know now would never fly in a zillion years. Like, all that stuff would just be, there's no way. They'd put a kibosh on it in a hot second, right? So coming soon, the Matt Mettler Podcast Broadcast Studios. I'm very excited for that, all right? So when I filled out the insurance form, they were asking me all kinds of questions about what the show was going to be. Much like a pot pipe, I don't know what this show is going to be. I don't know exactly what this show is going to be, but I do know what I don't want it to be, right? I don't want it to be some sort of internet shouting match. I don't want it to be some sort of thing like that, right? I want it to be, well, let me put it this way. I'm like art. I'm not always here to make you happy. I may not always make you happy, but I would really like to always make you think. That's very important. You know, like one of the things that's lacking in the world today, thinking. Let's try and promote some of that. That's what this show is going to do. One of the things that I did actually come to terms with when I did this exercise about thinking about what the show is that I don't want to be like other people's shows. I don't want to be the next Paul Joseph Watson. I think he's an incredibly well-spoken individual, but I don't want to be the next Paul Joseph Watson. There's already a Paul Joseph Watson, and nobody can be PJW better than he can. That's just the straight-up truth, man. Nobody can be Paul Joseph Watson like Paul Joseph Watson. I don't want to be the next Steven Crowder. I'd like to be as successful as Steven Crowder. I'd like to have as many listeners and viewers as Steven Crowder. But I don't want to be the next Steven Crowder, man. He's such a unique character all unto himself. I don't want to try and ride that. I don't want to do that. Would I be a guest on his show? Sure. I'd love to be a guest on the show. But I'm not going to try and compete with that space because he's doing that so well. I'd be a fool to try and do that. I don't want to be the next Philip DeFranco. Although I really like his videos. And I think he has a lot of great stuff to say, right? When I got to thinking about all this, I had this moment where I thought about the movie Fighting Family with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I recently went and saw that movie Fighting Family. There is a nugget of wisdom that he drops in that film that is so good, that is so incredibly good that I'm going to, small spoiler alert, I'm going to give it to you now. And he says, don't try to be the next me. Just try to be the first you. And it was like, when I saw that and I heard him say that, I was just like, wow, that is actually amazingly deep advice that extends way past the film. In trying to be anybody, just try and do what you can do. And I was like, man, that's great advice. So I'm going to try and follow that. One of the things that I don't want this show to be, believe it or not, I really don't want to give too much time to political garbage and political baggage. One of the things that I think is going on in America is that all of us are drinking entirely too much news Kool-Aid. Entirely too much media propaganda Kool-Aid, man. All of us. Left, right, everybody. The one thing I'm going to say about it is that I tend to look at all of the news sources. And the reason I look at all of the news sources is when you really do look at all the news sources, their blatant bias becomes so incredibly obvious that they can't even hide it anymore. They're no longer even trying to hide their bias anymore. They're just reporting in a sort of opinion-based way. Now when you go to a channel, what you're hoping to hear is something that reinforces the bias that you already have. And I think that that's a big part of what they're doing. So there are already so many personalities in the world that want to focus on the whole political aspect of living life that I kind of just want to keep a minimalist stance to that. Doesn't mean I'll never address the political. I read a lot of news. There's no doubt to me that I'll definitely discuss the political at some point. I just don't want to dwell on it. I don't want that to be what this show is about, man. I would really like for the show to be something that's about the things that bring us together and not the things that divide us. The things that make us human. The things that we all share. I would really prefer for the show to reside in that realm more than in the realm of things that are dividing. I'm going to try my best to make sure that it holds that mandate. And the other thing that I want the show to be about is I want to try and talk about the things that we can actually agree on. The middle ground. Because I know that there are actually a lot of things in the world that we can agree on, the left and the right, and just people, humans. Because like I said, I'm not a parties guy. I'm an ideas and people guy. Parties are not doing a great job. I would say that we need to look to people and ideas more so than parties, because parties as a whole is kind of like this funky game. A last note on the news and the mainstream media, their goal is to manipulate you. Their goal is to manipulate you and to make you upset and to put you in basically a stressful situation, because when they can kick up your cortisol, when they can kick up your stress, it makes you more open to suggestion. It makes you more susceptible to buy their garbage. That's a big part of what all of that stuff is designed to do, is just keep you coming back to it and pressing their feeder bar. I kind of invite you guys to ignore it. If you do, you'll probably start feeling better about the world. A lot of that stuff is just meaningless garbage anyway. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about on this episode of the show was things that I am thankful for. Having a week off as a currently unemployed person has given me some real time to think about the things that I'm thankful for. I want to put out into the universe the good stuff. I want to put the positivity out into the universe in the hopes that it spirals back around and works out. So the very first thing that I'm thankful for, and one of the things that I'm most thankful for in this world, man, friends. You know, I'm so thankful to have a couple of really great friends on this planet. I only have a few really, really good ones that are really tight. I'm so thankful for. Doesn't mean that I don't have all the people out in the world that I know and that I'm acquainted with that are in the category of friends. Yeah, but you're real, true friends, right? I'm so thankful for them. They make all the difference in the world, man. And here's a little advice. If you got good friends and you love them, call them, text them, tell them. Let them know that you love them. It's just a great thing to do. Another thing that I'm totally thankful for in this world, having such a great mom. When it came to the lottery that is getting moms, my scratcher was a winner. Right? I got a great mom, and she did a really wonderful job of raising me in a way that is lost today. I'm so thankful to have such a great mom who did such a great job giving me the childhood that I had and the life that I grew up into, right? I'm so thankful for that. Another thing that I'm really super duper thankful for is having the bills paid. Once upon a time in my life, I was struggling super duper duper hard. It doesn't mean that it's a free ride. I have my bills paid right now, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm super thankful for that. And like I said, I'm not independently wealthy, but I measure my richness by the things that I have and not the things that I don't. And I know that when I look at the things that I have, I truly am a rich man. I don't measure my life or success by money alone. And I think that's super important, people. Don't measure your life or your success by your money alone. Another thing that I'm super glad to have in the world, I'm very thankful for, pets. I love pets, man. They show us unconditional love, and they bring their wonderful little energies with them. and they enrich our lives, and I'm very thankful. Whether it's rabbits or chickens or ferrets or even even rats, pets are great, and I'm thankful for what they do for us in our lives. Another thing that I'm thankful for is farm living. I've lived out on the farm now here for 4 years, and boy, has that been an amazing experience. I've learned an awful lot about mice. I've learned about living with chickens and horses and owls and even raccoons, and the joy and loss that is living on a farm, right? That has been really great. I'm very thankful for having had that experience. It has also given me a lot of room to grow, and for that I'm very grateful. It's been amazing in that respect. Another thing that I'm very thankful for, escaping the cubicle. I feel like I was recently just let out of jail. Dude, I feel like I was let back into the world, and it's a beautiful, sunshiny place, and there's a world full of options for me out there, and I'm so glad to be back in it, man. Yeah, I'm so glad to be back in the world and not in a cubicle right now. I can't even tell you, people. I can't even tell you. And then another thing that I'm just super thankful for in my life is the incredible experiences that I've had. I have had in my life some amazing experiences, people. Really. When I was in entertainment, I had the pleasure of working with amazing people like Neil Diamond and Kiss and Queen Latifah and Down and Iron Maiden, Tony Bennett and Ozzy Osbourne, and just all kinds of amazing shows, right? I had crazy, weird experiences with artists and entertainers. Charlie Tuna. Charlie Tuna's the nicest guy in real life. I'm so thankful to have had all of those amazing experiences, really. Things that I'm thankful for in my life, right? I wanted to tell you a little story about when we would put the headliner on stage out at Fiddler's Green. One of my favorite things in the world is when we would do the show day. There's a lot of work in the concert industry that is pre-production garbage or things that are not the show, but it's the show day. That's where the glory is, right? That's what all the effort's about. So one of my favorite things that we would do is out at Fiddler's Green, it would be time to put the headliner band on. We would have swapped out the opener act stuff off the stage. Now the headliner stuff would be revealed. We would be getting ready to black out the house, right? And as the house electrician, I would go out onto the stage, and I was the person that was responsible for turning off the lights on the stage before the show. And what was crazy about that is I would step out onto the stage, and 30,000 people are staring at you, right? 30,000 people see you moving down there on the stage. They all know that we're getting near the show time. It's getting ready to start, right? They see you walk out on that stage. The vibration, the energy just goes up. And it would be so crazy to have 30,000 people just looking at you, waiting for you, right? So I'd go over to the wall box where the circuit breakers for all the overhead lights are at. I would pull my radio handset up to my ear so that I could hear it, because the audience would start getting really jazzed up. They'd start getting really pumped, right? And they started making all kinds of noise, and they started screaming and yelling and clapping and I used to love that build-up moment. It's like going on an amusement park ride and they've pulled you up to the top of that bad boy and they're getting ready to let you go. It was like the build-up that gives you. I used to love that moment. We'd come across the radio, and the reason that we had to do that is because there was 2 different locations where we had to turn lights off simultaneously to black out the house. I'd be listening to my radio. It would be time to go. Somebody would come across the radio and be like, "Ready, house lights? House lights, go." I would hit the 6 big switches. The stage would black out. My homie over at the wall box, he would hit those switches. The towers would black out. The whole place would go dark, and the crowd would just lose their minds, dude. The crowd would just go to 11, right? They would flip completely out. And I used to love that moment. I'd slam those breakers, boy, and the audience would just go berserk. I'd close the wall box and walk out the stage door, and the band would come on. I used to just love that moment. Making 30,000 people scream with just the touch of your fingers. That was all it took to make people go berserk and lose their minds, man. I absolutely love that. That's one of the things that I do miss about not being in the concert business. And part of the reason I'm going to try and get back into doing some production is to feel that again, man, because that was an amazing experience. And it just goes back to I've had amazing experiences, people. I really have. My next segment during this show is called Imparting Some Wisdom. Along the way, I've learned a lot of things. Anybody can learn from their own mistakes. It takes a wise person to learn from the mistakes of others. That's what these ideas are about. Maybe you'll find them helpful. If not, just write them down in your mental notebook for later. Maybe these will come invaluable later. So some of the things that I have learned along the way are that money can buy you happiness, but that there are also a lot of miserable rich people in the world too. So money is not everything. Money does not solve all problems. With the proper application of money, happiness could be attained. But it's worth knowing that there are a lot of rich people that aren't happy. There are a lot of rich people that are just as troubled as people that don't have money. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of rich people who suffer a lot more angst than people who have nothing. It's people who have nothing who seem to be some of the most generous and giving people in the world. Even though they don't have a lot to offer, they're willing to share it with you. There's something to be said for that. There really is, right? Another little nugget of wisdom is that fame is cool, but it's destroyed a lot of people's lives. And on this one, I want to give credit to Jim Carrey for having a really great quote where he says, "I wish everyone could be rich and famous so that they could see that it's not the answer." That's some deep stuff. I don't agree with everything that Jim says, but I certainly think that that is wisdom right there, man. Another great one is that expectations sabotage our joy. We could be happier in our lives if we didn't bring so many expectations about everything with us. I think that this is something that is especially an American proclivity. Americans tend to bring a lot of expectations with them in regards to all things. It has been my experience that people from foreign lands, they actually tend to just sort of show up with a more open mind, open heart, and just sort of let it happen. Just let it unfold, right? They don't try and push their expectations onto it. Those expectations can cause a lot of disappointment. If we reduce our overall expectations, we could probably be surprised more. We could probably be pleasantly surprised more if we just let some of those expectations go a little bit, right? Another one that I think is really important and is so true is that one of the best parts of life is really our good true friends. Our good true friends are what make life rich. I'm so thankful to have a couple of just really great friends I love dearly, man, and they make all the difference in the world. I'm thankful to them. Yeah, friends. That makes all the difference, and that's one of the best parts of life. Another little piece of wisdom is that most often it is not outside or external forces that keep us limited or that hold us in place or that limit what we can do. Most often it's actually internal factors like fear and, as one of my great friends says, paralysis by analysis, where we're so caught up in trying to make the decision that we can't bring ourselves to make it. And that's real common in the world that we live in today. Like the world that we live in is got a lot of intersecting problems, and sometimes it can be very difficult to make a decision based on overanalysis, right? Paralysis by analysis. Another one is procrastination. And that is something that I have been guilty of in the past that I'm trying to change. That's part of what this podcast is an effort to change procrastination and get out there and do it. And then lastly, self-sabotage. There's a lot of people in the world where they self-sabotage themselves because they're getting too close to success. They don't fear failure. They've been failing their whole lives. They fear success, right? So they self-sabotage. Those are some of the forces that hold us in place more so than the external forces in our lives, believe it or not. So recognize those things, you can overcome them. And these are some of the things that I recognize in my life that I want to change and that I want to do better on. Here's another great nugget of wisdom. Sometimes you have to move on to move up. Sometimes you have to move on to move up, people. It's the truth. And knowing when to get up and step away from the table and be okay with it and move forward, that's wisdom too. Because staying too long at a place where you're not being treated the way that you should is actually telling the people that are treating you that way that it's okay. Stepping off and going and doing your own thing says to them, look, man, you can't treat me that way. So there's something to be said for that. Also in line with the sometimes you have to move on to move up. Here's another one. Sometimes the only variable capable of changing in the mathematical equation is you. Sometimes the only thing that can change in any given mathematical equation, the only variable capable of actually changing or being anything different is you. That's something to know. Another one is that learning that we don't know everything. In fact, we barely know anything. I sort of mean this to just be humble. I know that in my own life, there are things that I'm pretty sure that I know. And there are things that, I have a really solid grasp on. But there's a lot of things in the world that I don't know. There's a lot of things that I cannot explain. There's a lot of things in this world that are the realm of other people, right? And they're the experts in it. I'm okay with that. It's okay. Recognizing that you do not know everything is actually growth. And it's a very important thing that if you lost touch with the fact that you don't know everything, great thing to sort of remember. It allows you to allow other people to be experts, and it allows you to let other people do their thing too. Here's another one. There's a difference between knowledge and understanding. There's a difference between knowing something and understanding it. My example in this case is putting together an audio sound system. Once you truly understand how all this audio stuff works, you don't need books. You don't need drawings. You don't need to look at anything. You can just assemble the sound system together. If you were just given the parts, you could just put it together because that's how it works. And you'd be putting it together in a specific way to solve the problems that you need it to solve. That's what understanding is. Knowledge is knowing how to plug a microphone in and turn it up. Understanding is knowing how the entire sound system goes together and why. How it all works the way that it does. It's a much deeper and higher level of understanding. Another piece of wisdom that I have learned along the way that is really cool is giving to others feels better than a lot of things. Giving to others and helping others out actually feels pretty amazing. It leaves you with a feeling in your heart that's great. I really like feeling that. One of the things that's been going on lately is as I've been driving around, I'll see homeless people. And I have recently I've had a change of heart. I don't want to give homeless people cash because I recently saw a thing where they showed that, homeless people actually make a fair amount of cash, but what they spend it on is more dubious. Like a lot of homeless people are spending that money that they're making on drugs or alcohol, and it's not really going to solve problems. If anything, it's going to perpetuate them. So one of the things that I've taken to lately is I've been giving homeless people tuna. So I had a couple of cans of tuna. If I see a homeless dude, I'll give him some tuna. And that way I know that they eat. That way I know that I have done my part. They will eat something today. But they can't inject tuna in their arm. And no heroin dealer is going to trade them their tuna for a hit of heroin. So I feel better about giving them that instead of giving them cash. The lesson there is that helping people out feels really good. I was with somebody and we were driving around. We saw a guy that was, he was waving a sign, please help. He was in a wheelchair. We went and got him a hamburger and brought it back to him. He was just so incredibly thankful for the hamburger. That made me feel very good that I could help him out. It made me feel like that I can help be part of the solution and not be heartless, right? Because I want to help fix the problem, but I don't want to extend it or exacerbate it. Right? I don't want to make it worse. And then I think the last little bit of knowledge is something that's about Coloradans. One thing that I know that is about Coloradans is that we believe in a different kind of freedom here in Colorado than they do in other places, than they do on the East Coast, or than they do in the major urban areas of Los Angeles or something like that, right? Coloradans believe in a kind of freedom that is a lot more free than all of those people. Here in Colorado, we believe in a kind of freedom that's a lot more personal responsibility based, but is also a lot more free. We're a lot less about bureaucracy and rules. Not that we don't have those things, just that they're more loosely applied in Colorado. Long as you're not hurting folks, a lot of things in Colorado are fine as long as you're not hurting people. And I think that's what it should be, because that's what freedom is. So we believe in a different kind of freedom here that I think is awesome, and I'm glad that it is that way. All right, the next little segment of the show, a thing that I want to talk about called the human computer. When I was getting into the computers business, I had to do some studying for a while to understand how computers were put together. There's a concept in computing called the stack. I'm just going to very briefly explain it. The stack is all the running programs in the computer. When something needs priority, it moves to the top of the stack, and then the computer thinks the most about that. And then when it's done, it moves it down the stack, and it moves the next highest priority up in, and it moves these programs around and their priorities, but they're all running in there at the same time. Some are doing things, some are just idling. And this idea or concept was actually designed to emulate and mimic the way that humans think about things and make decisions. You got a lot of things going on in your brain, but you're focused on just one or two of those tasks there at the top, right? And that's exactly what the stack is. So when I learned about that, and I learned that it was designed to emulate how humans operate, it made me realize that if computers are designed to operate like humans, then humans and computers are equal in some ways. We share similarities that we forget about. And one of those similarities is the realization came to me that we are the computers. We are the computers, right? Because we can be programmed, and typically we are programmed throughout our lives. Once programmed, we tend to repeat those programs over and over. Another proclivity of humans that I think is an interesting thing is that if you put garbage in, you will get garbage out. Exactly the same way a computer does. If you put erroneous, false, or bad information into a human, they will make the worst judgments and they will come up with the worst answers based on the fact that they don't have enough information to make good decisions. Computers and humans are exactly identical in that. But one of the things that we need to remember is that as a computer, you don't have to continue to run a program. You can decide that you no longer want to run that program anymore. You can recognize that it's a program, that it runs on your operating system, and that if you look at it from that perspective, it's actually kind of easier to take control of habits that you don't like and get rid of them. Because what you need to think about is unprogramming it out of your computer or uninstalling it out of your computer, right? That's something that we have forgotten. That we have the ability to control the programs on our computer, that we can uninstall them or modify them at any time. So I invite all of us to remember the fact that we are the computers and that we are running programs. And if you're currently running programs on your operating system that are not helpful to you, that are not doing the things that you had hoped, that are not taking you where you need to go or getting the results that you had wanted, it's okay to uninstall that garbage. It's okay to remove those programs from your operating system. It's like a closet, man. Sometimes you got to clean it out. Everything runs better. So that little nugget of wisdom right there about the human computer. We can do what we want. We don't have to run those same programs. So I invite all of you to remember that when it comes time to change something you don't like about yourself, uninstall that program. Don't even lose sleep about it. It is possible for you to change your ways. We need to remember that. So my next little segment, my next short topic here is where to find a pet in Denver. Because I think pets are cool and I love pets. If you don't know, there's a place here in Denver called the Denver Dumb Friends League, and they have 2 locations, one in Denver, one in Aurora. And they have many wonderful pets that need adoption and need to go to good, loving homes, right? So if you wanted to look into getting a pet from Denver Dumb Friends League, I'm sure they would be super excited to help you find a pet. They need good people who want to help. Give a call to the Denver Dumb Friends League. My next very short segment was People used to come up and ask me questions all the time when I was a sound man. That was one of the fun things about being in the entertainment business, just period, is people would come up and ask you all kinds of crazy questions. But as a sound man, they would walk up, they would ask a few different things. One of my favorite questions was, they would come up and they would say, do you really know what all these knobs do? Probably the number one question sound people get asked. Do you really know what all these knobs do? And I used to answer back, yes, I really do know what all these knobs do. Another one that was great was, do you really need all of this stuff? Do you really need all this stuff to do this? That was another great one. And then I used to love the people that would come up that maybe they'd be a little bit sauced. I call these the random pointers. So they would randomly point at things in your booth and then start asking you questions. It'd be like a knowledge quiz about the various items in the booth. It was almost like they were just trying to see if you had good answers and if you knew what the hell you were talking about as a sound man or not. So yeah, they would randomly point at different things and ask you what they did. Another good one is like, what do those lights mean? Another question that is, I didn't get asked this very often, but I just figured since I'm already on the topic, I'll just answer it. Do you have to go to school to be a sound person? No. Technically, no. You don't have to go to school, but I would say that there is some good upside to going to school for engineering, because when you come out into the job, you'll have a much better understanding of how it all works. And instead of just learning whatever you learned from the people that you trained with on the job training, you'll have a much better overview of the whole thing and how it all works, right? So, do you have to go to school to be a sound person? No, but it does help. It does help. I forgot to mention a couple of restaurants in the last show. Like I said, I want to try and support local businesses and local restaurants. The two restaurants that I kind of left off in the last show, there's a restaurant called the Cherry Cricket, and that's over in Cherry Creek, and they specialize in hamburgers. They have all kinds of really great food, but they specialize in hamburgers. They have these incredible things called mash puppies. They're like potato balls that have bacon and cheese and ranch, and they're fried, and oh my God, are they good, people. They're so good. Go over to the Cherry Cricket. You will have a great meal. Make sure you get some mash puppies. They're amazeballs, right? They're incredibly good. Another place that I really like over here in Parker is a place on Parker Boulevard called the Hickory House. The Hickory House has been there for quite a while. They do all kinds of barbecue. It's also a bar. They have a pretty good business for food and the bar. It's usually fairly busy. They have amazing barbecue, and they have all kinds of good home-cooked comfort food kind of things there. It is a little bit spendy, but it's worth it. The Hickory House over on Parker. That's a great place to eat as well. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for listening. I want to thank you guys for being here with me and listening. It's amazing that this has gotten some listens and that there are people out there. I got a couple people following the show. I'm going to try and keep things, rolling so that you guys got good, entertaining stuff to listen to. That's what I'm here to do, is to entertain you. So I'm trying to make all of that happen, right? The audience is at least 50% of this show. Without you, there's nothing. Without you, I'm just a guy talking to a microphone. It is you that makes this show happen. So for all you people that are listening, I super duper appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like, you can go ahead and leave a comment. All of those things really, really help me out, right? When it comes to the algorithm and it comes to recommending this to other people, when you hit the like button or when you share this, it really does a lot to help this show up in other people's recommended feed, right? So I appreciate that every time you guys do that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys, be sure that you join me in the next episode of the Matt Mettler Podcast. The Matt Mettler Podcast is a Matt Mettler production. Copyright 2019.